Alright, so, welcome to match 1 of this Versus series. We won the die roll, so we will elect to play. So we go ahead and keep this hand because it's really good. It has mana, has lots of mana. It has some interaction with Thoughtseize and Murderous Cut. We just need to draw into some gas, like a whip, and then mill something good with Wayfinder, or hit like a Doomwake Giant or something like that, or a Sidisi. So, and we have a Scryland to help. We'll lead on the Palace so we can go Thoughtseize into Temple of Mystery next turn. But we're probably not going to do that. We're just going to cast Caryatid here. It lets us go Thoughtseize and Wayfinder next turn, plus the Temple of Mystery. Or whatever land we get from the Wayfinder. Josh plays a Seeker of the Way, which is not that much of a threat. Alright. So we draw Hornet Queen, which is pretty much... well, it's very good if we hit the mana to cast it in a timely manner. Cedar Wayfinder misses, unfortunately, but we have the Temple and a Forest, so we're going to Thoughtseize. We see the Butcher, the Rabblemaster, an Outburst, Magma Jet, and Other End. We don't really care about either of the removal spells. We're going to have to stop the Butcher in the air with Hornet Queen or Murderous Cut. So we really just want to take Outburst, I think, because it's the most difficult for us to deal with. We go ahead and do that. Like we could stop we can stop the Butcher in the air with Hornet Queen. We can Murderous Cut the Rabblemaster. So we have a lot of options. I kept the Saga Mauler on top, which may have been a mistake, given that we just want to make sure we hit our land drops for Hornet Queen. So I think I should have bottomed that, but I'm pretty sure I kept it on top. That was a mistake. Cedar Wayfinder trades with the Goblin. Yeah, I did keep the Mauler on top. Wayfinder trades with the Goblin because I'm planning on Murderous Cutting the Goblin Rabblemaster, and I don't want the Butcher to have anything big to sacrifice. Now, this was... I decided not to play the Saga Mauler face down because of Magma Jet. And that might have been a mistake because if Josh Magma Jets next turn, he can't play Butcher. And then we're in a good situation because we're drawing pretty live. We can Murderous Cut the Rabblemaster, and then he just has a Seeker in play. As well as if he doesn't Magma Jet next turn, then we can untap, flip it even if we don't draw land, and Josh is kind of in trouble. He doesn't have any good ways to remove the Mauler other than a Crackling Doom, which you would have to draw into. And we know 3 of the cards in his hand. Anyways, long story short, I probably should have morphed the Saga Mauler, but I elected not to. Go ahead and kill the Rabblemaster before combat after Josh plays the Nomad Outpost. And definitely can't play the Butcher. I decided not to block because of the Magma Jet. Draw a Sidisi, which is pretty good if Josh doesn't have a removal spell. And he doesn't, and we hit, which is quite good. So now Josh is in a bit of trouble. He Magma Jets us to set up his next draws. And we're down to 12, which is kind of dangerous, given that he has a Butcher in hand. But he decides to Crackling Doom and then get in with the Seeker, which is pretty good. It definitely makes our situation difficult when we can't start to accumulate advantage with the CDC. Thankfully, we draw another one. But she does not make a zombie, which is problematic. So here Josh chains the CDC to the rocks and then casts Butcher. And can sacrifice the Seeker to attack, but he decides not to. I decline to block because there's no way I'm winning if I block and then don't draw anything. Like, I have to draw into something, essentially. Not blocking was probably a mistake there because I have a lot of 4-mana draws, but not very many 5-mana draws that save me. And even if I draw a land, I'm dead anyways. Because casting the Saga Mauler, the Mauler doesn't have reach. So I made a mistake there. I should have blocked. I didn't, and does end up being relevant as I draw the Temple of Malady and just concede. But if I would have been able to scry into like a Murderous Cut there, and I had blocked, I likely would have been able to stay alive for possibly another turn. Although, no, because if I would have blocked, I would have been at 7, and no, I would have had to play the Saga Mauler face down. Josh would have unended the Mauler. I would have blocked the Seeker and gone to 2 with no ward. So I would have untapped and cut the Butcher and died anyways. I was losing no matter what, even if I had, like, if this Temple were a cut, I would have been fine, but otherwise, I just wouldn't have been able to get there. So, lost game 1. I'm not entirely sure how I sideboarded, but I'm pretty sure I brought in Sultai Charms, Reclamation Sage to deal with Chain to the Rocks and such, and the Ashiok to try to pick up a creature and just to present another diversified threat. I decided to play first. This is a pretty clear mulligan, and this is keepable, although not tremendously exciting. If my Satyr Wayfinder turns over something good, then I'm in great shape, because I have this whip that I no longer have because Josh has a Thoughtseize. So if I draw another land, I'm going to want to play Wayfinder into Wayfinder, or if I find my way into another untapped land. So we'll lead with the Caryatid. We do draw another untapped land, but we're going to go ahead and play Wayfinder first anyways, just to see what's going on. And we pick up the Temple of Mystery because we already have an untapped land. And we don't really care about like having another. We just want to scry. We're light on threats here, so anything that's that can help us find one is good. In this case, again, we'll take the Palace because we want better mana, and we don't really need lands that come into play untapped. Draw a Delta, go ahead and scry. That's not what we want, so we'll bottom it and pass the turn. Oh, I also brought in the 4th whip. Oh, we're getting in for 2, right? So we only have 2 whips left in our deck, unfortunately. Josh flashes in a Hushwing Gryff end of turn, which is actually quite annoying. It shuts down Sidisi and all of our Constellation guys, Doomwake Giant, you know, not to mention Hornet Queen. Josh Thought Seizes, so I respond by casting the only non-land card in my hand. Get rid of the Hushwing Gryff. He Hordling Outburst, which stops my ground attackers. And I'll just pass the turn. Having access to Downfall is good for something like a Butcher or a Rabblemaster. There's a Butcher. Josh decides not to sacrifice a token because either he clicked through it or he knows that I have Downfall. But I'll go ahead and fire it off at the end of his turn to free up my mana for next turn if I draw something good. I don't draw anything good, but we'll go ahead and see if we can mill over something good and find a Scry land to help us. Well, we flip over another Whip and a Courser, both of which would be great at getting us back into the game. We do pick up a land, which is marginally useful, I guess. We play the Polluted Delta in case we draw a Courser, so we can filter the top card right away. Josh plays a Sarkhan, which is worrisome. But we're at a pretty high life total, and we draw a Hornet Queen. So that's really good. We're not going to crack the fetch again if we draw a Courser. It'll help us with card selection. And now we get to attack, because we have more blockers. With Hornet Queen, we don't mind trading off our 1/1s for Josh's 1/1s. Although it is definitely another possible line for us to wait and hope we draw a Doomwake Giant. I don't think I cited out all the giants, but I don't entirely remember because it was a little while ago that I recorded this. Soul of Innistrad is a fantastic draw, by the way. It'll let us get back a Sidisi and a Courser and like a Wayfinder. Or let us get back this Hornet Queen that Josh is just destroying. So we're going to take Sarkhan down to 2, excuse me. Deal 4. And then cast the Soul and pass the turn. And then next turn we're in really good shape. If we can draw something fairly solid deal with this Butcher. And we do, we draw Whip. So you can play Whip and whip back a Hornet Queen. We have to fetch, but it's fine. And we get a huge life-linking Air Force that Josh just can't deal with. So he concedes. It was, the game was pretty back and forth until we drew the first Hornet Queen. And then it went back and forth a little more until we hit Soul of Innistrad into Whip Erebos. And the Whip really closed things out. Just prevented Josh from doing anything. But the Soul probably would have gotten it done as well, depending on what Josh's next card or two were. Because Hornet Queen is extremely powerful. So, we're 1-1, and let's take a look at game 3. All right. Josh decides to play first. This hand is not great because we don't have any green mana. And this hand is fine. We have Thoughtseize into Caryatid into Courser, so I would be surprised if it were bad. And excuse my Facebook. If you can hear the sound, which you probably can. Anyways, here we have, like, Josh has kind of a top-heavy curve with not very many lands. So taking his early action in the Hordeling Outburst is going to be our best option. And we do so. So it seems like we're, seems like we're pretty on track to winning this. You know, we get to cast Courser. We don't get a land off the top, but we do get to gain a life off the trigger. Josh gets to play the Wingmate, or the Butcher of the Horde. But we get to play Temple of Malady, bottom the Thoughtseize, and then cast the DC to clear this island off the top. Get a zombie. So, again, pretty good shape. Not much to worry about. Josh even misses his land drop. Or his untapped land for Wingmate Rock. Although he'll have it next turn. But he casts another Butcher, which is going to be very problematic. I get to get a Polluted Delta off of Courser. Fetch. And I decide to cast the Sagu Mauler so that next turn I can play the Whip and get in there. But right now I'm not going to attack because his Butchers outclass all of my creatures. Unfortunately, I just don't have anything to deal with the flyers. Like, I'm going to 4... And Josh is playing Wingmate Rock with Raid. So they get to gain life with Courser, cast Whip. And then attack. But I have to attack with pretty much everything to stay alive. I do get a trigger and mill over a Hornet Queen. So if I can stay alive next turn, if I can survive next turn, then I'm okay. But Josh has the utter end for the Whip, so it's unlikely I'm surviving next turn with the Whip intact. I do go up to 18 and take Josh down to 8, which is quite solid. Lose my Sidisi, though, which is unfortunate. Josh attacks, goes up to 12, takes me to 2, and then gets rid of the Whip, and that's game. Because I draw the Thoughtseize, and then I just have, you know, the 10 power instead of the 12 that I need to kill him. So that's the match. Just the flyers were incredibly difficult for me to deal with because I didn't get the chance to whip back my Hornet Queen. Thanks for watching, and just stay tuned for the rest of the matches, which are fortunately live.